Okay, so hello guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing? I hope you fine and well. Welcome back to another podcast episode. I'm so excited for this one in particular. Today's podcast episode, we are going to be talking about the pain body that listens. If this is the first time you're watching me or going on over here, hi there, I'm tanyanishailoc. I'm a Ugandan content creator. I create a lot of content that inspires, uplifts, and also helps you see life in a particular way that you have never thought about, so that in the long run you can also be able to stand up for yourself, develop the courage you need, and also be a better human being. So make it the point that you subscribe, you like, you comment, and you share out with friends and family. I would also love very, very much to hear your reviews about this podcast episode in the comment section below. Help me rate it by giving up a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That will also help a lot and a lot. Yes, so as I've told you earlier on starting the podcast episode, today we are talking about the pain body that, listens. I'm a reader and I enjoy being a reader. I love reading very, very absolutely much. Throughout the whole of my experiences around the late teens of my life and the early 20s of my life, I had a lot of things that triggered me to start reading and exploiting this thing called life. And one of the greatest spiritual teachers, and there are a lot of them, but one of them who actually touched my life a lot through his work was Eckhart. Now, Eckhart has actually written a lot of different books. And I think he was the first spiritual teacher or spiritual leader who actually I learned a lot of things, also Oprah and a lot of them. But he was one of the person who actually, I learned a lot of things from, as a person who was, starting this spiritual journey, finding myself, finding my truest purpose, who I am, and all those different things. And in one of his books, The New Earth, he talks about the pain body. If you have never read that book, I would recommend it to you guys a lot, especially people who are readers and people who want to exploit more and more of how they can be able to use their lives so the way how they can use their lives and also use their minds so that it's not the opposite, if that makes sense. And by saying it's not the opposite, I'm meaning not your life to use you or not your mind to use you. He talks about the pain body. And today I want to talk about this topic from my own perspective, being a person who has experienced a lot of different unhealed trauma in the past that it haunted me very, very absolutely much, to the moment in time that it actually limited me to be in social gatherings, to be with my friends, to attend different things, to drop different activities that probably in the nearby future would be very, very beneficial to myself. So for me, pain body, when someone talks about the pain body, the first thing that comes to my mind, it is actually trauma. Unhealed trauma from the past. That's the first thing. The second thing might be emotional stress and emotional trauma and emotional damage. And most of the time, these things come from experiences we did live in, and we never accepted that those particular experiences within those moments in time. I'll give you an example: a person who has been raped, or a person who has been defiled, or a person who has been, involved in an accident where someone tried to kill them, they never accepted that moment to be true. And I'm telling you the truth, most of the time it is hard to accept it. They are going to carry on all that pain from childhood to adulthood, having a concept fear of fearing either men, fearing, dark corridors, fearing, either taller people, fearing white people, fearing black people, fearing, people from a particular tribe. But all this comes from such experiences that we as people, we never, had to deal with hand on hand for the first time during those particular experiences. Inyara is also another good spiritual, teacher. And I think I was listening to one of the podcasts she was doing with Oprah, and she said that until when you heal the wounds of your past, you will continue bleeding. You might, pamper up your life with, sex. You might pamper up, your life with a lot of alcohol, with a lot of leisure. but just like any other, misfortune, it will ooze out and stain your life. So it is absolutely very important that as we go through life and we suffer what we suffer from, we go back and ask ourselves, what did we experience in our childhood or earlier on or previously that actually created this pattern or this paradigm of the way how we do think? It is absolutely very, very important. As a person growing up, I believe that I was not given enough opportunity to stand in for myself, to also be courageous enough. I think the one thing I was actually deprived a lot, it was courage. And that is one virtue that I realize now it's very, very absolutely important. Even when I went through the worst of the worst experiences I had with bullying at school, with different things that happened to me, with failure, I never had the courage either to speak up for myself or either to be able to do something for myself. And for me, that was one of the strongest pain bodies that actually I had to hold on for a very, very long time. Whenever something happened to me, all those emotions, all those things, I would relive them from the past, and they would completely deprive me of the present moment. Either I would be, too weak to continue, too weak to attend anything, too weak to indulge in anything, too weak to do anything. And I realize it right now that it's also one of the things that I have to completely give my time to, so that I can completely heal from those things that happened to me moving forward. The other perspective that I would love to talk about before I continue, it is the mind and our thoughts. Reading has also taught me that our thoughts and our mind has very, 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 important kind of interaction in our day-to-day lives. So as you think, so are you. Even the Bible says so. But that comes also partly from our mind. When you don't know who you are always going to think that you are your mind, And I always also love to say this, and we talk about this with my friend Nefra from the United States. Most of the time, people are sleepwalking in their lives. And I realize right now that the main reason why a lot of people are sleepwalking in their lives, it's just because they have not been awake enough or conscious enough to realize that there is more than their lay mind. Most of the time your mind can play tricks on you, and most of the time when it plays tricks on you, you may not realize it if you are not conscious enough. So that may lead you to make ridiculous decisions. That may lead you to do a lot of very, very oblivious things. That may cause you to do a lot of, uncertain violation kind of, sagas, even in communities where you do stay, that prompts a lot of either disgrace. That may also prompt, a lot of different things. Some people are going to be imprisoned. Some people are going to be turned out as outcasts in their families because of not being able to realize that your mind sometimes is playing tricks on you. So that is another perspective that I want to bring into enlightenment. Be very, very curious of what your mind and thoughts are generating into your consciousness. Otherwise, if you don't do that, it's going to continue lying you. And I'm not saying that our minds are wrong. Our minds are very, 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 very absolutely amazing, completely wonderful kind of part of our humanity as human being. But how do we use them? How do we interact them on a day-to-day basis? If your mind tells you are ugly, chances are very high that it's lying you. It's pulling on from some of the past, perspective of yourself that you were, you were in an experience where someone said that you were ugly. So it's pulling out from that, and it's showing you that reality that, you are ugly, but you are not ugly. If your mind is telling you that you are not worthy, most of the time it's pulling out from experiences that you did live, either bullying, either experiences with co-workers, letting you feel down, such instances, and it is showing you that you are not worthy, but you are worthy. So that's another thing that I wanted to bring into enlightenment. The other thing I would love to talk about is that how we do suffer from pain bodies, because I think that is also very, very absolutely important. By now, I think that I've brought a little bit of light when it comes to that topic. Every topic or every information I'm talking in this video, it is from my own perspective as a person who has been able to read and lived some of these experiences. So how do we suffer our pain bodies? Even before how we go to that, I organize everything according to how I want to break everything to you guys. I think let's start from examples of pain bodies, because I think we cannot go to how we live into the pain bodies without going to the examples of pain bodies and how they manifest into our lives. So, as I told you, a person who has suffered from a lot of things, rape, some people are, they go through war zones. There are a lot of things that do happen to them, and they cannot be able to live fully, those moments, because either they are young, and most of the time, I don't know what happens, but young people, we are the most people who actually live within these traumatic situations that most of the time they end up staining our lives permanently, especially if you have not been conscious enough to wake up, The first thing, it is going to be anxiety. Anxiety is one of the strongest example of the manifestation of pain bodies. If you know someone who is actually very, very anxious, chances are very high that anxiety has not just developed today. It hasn't developed today. It has a base where it is coming from. And most of the time, you cannot deal with anxiety and give anxiety drugs. Some of them, I think, when you go to hospital, they might even give you some mood stabilizers like sodium valproate or calcium carbonate, such drugs, without knowing the root cause of this anxiety. A person is, going for an interview, a person is in a meeting, or a person is in a social gathering, but the way how they are having these strange, continuous, panic-related anxiety attacks, wow, most of the time there is a root. And when you want to deal with it fully, you have to go back to where all this thing comes from. You might find that such a person grew up in a family where their parents, they limited them to talk, where their parents would leash them just because of expressing their feelings, So most of the time you have to go back and look at that situation and you accept it and now move on for the better. Move out with courage, because I realize right now that courage is one of the strongest virtues of life, and we are denied that virtue. I remember that courage, most of the time, it will carry you when you allow it to carry you. So anxiety is one of the first manifestation when it comes to, manifestation of pain bodies. The second thing is alienation. So alienation is actually a term that means not being in harmony with yourself, where you are, with people you are with, within a particular environment. When you go to visit someone, when you are in a taxi, when you are somewhere, you are not calm. Even when you come back home in your own place, in your own house, you are uncomfortable, you are not comfortable with yourself. Most of the time also, that is a manifestation of a pain body. It is trying to, to manifest through you that there is some experience from the past that is haunting you, because most of the time our minds also, pulls on to those experiences. And if you are not wise enough, you are going to sleepwalk in your life, thinking that those experiences do still exist right now, and yet they are in the past. That is the second manifestation. That can be that. Also, the thing can be fear. And fear is such a very, 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 very huge topic that when I start talking about it right now, we might not, finish. Fear is such a strong thing, and fear, I think it is of two categories. There is beneficial fear and there is unbeneficial fear. Unbeneficial fear, it is that fear that is going to even limit you to stand in the room and talk about yourself, talk about simple things about yourself, like your name. That is the unbeneficial fear. The beneficial fear, it is that fear that is going to help you feel and be intuitive when it comes to life, realize different aspects of life. Like, what, maybe there is someone going to maybe pull off my bag, or there is someone who's going to harm me. That is useful fear. But the unuseful fear, I'm talking about that fear that is going to be very, very detrimental even to your day-to-day life. It is going to limit you to live as a free human being. Most of the time, that is also an example of, or a manifestation of your pain body trying to thrive through you, or trying to manifest through you. The other thing I'll talk about when it comes to example, it is self-hatred. Self-hatred is something very, very key. I'm a person who worked in Butabika. If you don't know Butabika, it's a psychiatric hospital. Actually, it's a national referral psychiatric hospital in the country, Uganda here. And you realize that when you go to different wards, especially, patients on cards, We call them cards. I think cards, something like that. Question cards. I think that is the term, like the psychiatric term they use. It's a question card. Question card patients, these are suicidal patients. Most of the time when you go back and dig back, these are patients who have, self-hatred. Like on a scale of 1 to 100, these guys are on 100. And you cannot blame them, but you can only blame the circumstances and experiences they did have earlier on in life. Coherency in this life happens most of the time when there was proper child upbringing and proper child alienation when it comes to manners and proper life experiences. When one of those things I've just talked about prior are not in alignment, there is no coherency. And coherency, if you know that it is just, the ordinary way of how things do happen. For example, bringing up your child, telling them that you have to be courageous enough to stand up for yourself. When something happens, they'll be able to stand up for themselves. They'll always have the courage. They'll always have the virtue of the different virtues such as integrity and creativity to live in this world freely. But if that did not happen, there is no coherency. They'll not be able to live up to that truth, even though you want them. Those kids, they'll grow up into adults and to old age without, having the capability to live into those virtues because they were deprived from them at a very young age. And deprivation of such things, most of the time it leads into self-hatred. Not forgetting also traumatic life experiences, growing up in families where a child is not fully loved, fully showed a love and companionship, fully shown that they matter, fully shown that, there is more than what and the ego has to provide to them. Most of the time, they are going to suffer from self-hatred. And you have to touch into yourself and know it deep in yourself that, I'm suffering from self-hatred and I have to go back, dig back. Know where does this come from? The family where I do grow up from. Was it the main cause? All those kinds of things. The other thing I would love to talk about is addiction. Addiction is also another important thing that we cannot jump, this topic of the pain body without talking about. Most of the time, these pain bodies, they tend to be addictive because they tend to manifest in forms of addiction because sometimes people need different things to cling on to forget the main cause of their suffering. As I told you earlier on, Inyara says that until you heal the wounds of your past, until you do that, your life will continue to be stained. It will, because all these things are very, very important things of our humanity. Emotions, emotional trauma, these things are very, very absolutely important. So until you heal those things, you go back to the best and understand that this thing happened. You accept it in that moment. You move on knowing that I've accepted it and it does no longer have power over me, Until when you do that, you can be able to live freely from all these things that now you are going to be clinging on to try to sleep over your mind and tell you that everything is fine and yet it's not fine. Like alcohol addiction, like people, like sex addicts, like masturbation addicts, like a lot of like smoking, habits which are addictive. All these things, most of the time, they manifest a young child that was deprived of something very, very important. And most of the time, even if you are an adult by now, you have to go back to the base, dig deep enough to know that, this is the issue where everything comes from. Yes, so I think I was quite clear on that. Yes. Oh, the other thing I would love to talk about before I can leave the examples, it is emotional drama. Making hills out of small, making mountains, not hills, but making mountains out of small hills. Something happens and you think everything is all about you. My dear, everything is not all about you. That is also another thing I would love you to understand. And that is your pain body. It was, awakened because of something that happened in the past. And I've also realized as I grew older and older, into reading and exploiting how our minds and brains work, it is that most of the time these pain bodies or these experiences or manifestation need something to alert them. Pap, something happens and you are triggered completely. Most of the time it's your pain body manifesting. It's manifesting because you have unhealed trauma. So this brings me to the last bit of it, the last bit of this, the last bit of this segment. It is the pain body that listens. How are we going to be able to identify and make our pain bodies listen? Through reading and through my own experience, I've realized about 2 to 3 things that I would love to share with you guys. The first thing, it is acceptance. As you hear from our conversation, I've been talking about accepting what happened. I've realized that the more you accept a particular situation, the more you win, the more you take more control over it. Accepting that I was bullied, I was, taken for granted, I was beaten, I was, poured, sewage onto while I was in school, accepting all those things, accepting I was raped, I was done all these particular things, it doesn't take away what happened. And that is another thing I would love to clarify. It doesn't take away what happened, but it gives you the power and the capability to go over those things as a person who is conscious and knowing it as a matter of fact that it does no longer define you. That is one thing I would love you to understand. Accepting the situation and letting it be how it is. It's going to give you a lot of power. It's going to give you a lot of peace. It's going to give you a lot of joy. It's going to open doors because you are not going to be limiting yourself and always living in the past according to what did happen. That is the first thing I would love to talk about. It is accepting what it is. Whenever you accept what it is, you are going to find out that life is simple. And also, let me tell you this, life is very simple when you choose to see it that way. Most of the time, we ourselves are the people who bring a lot of trauma and bring a lot of suffering because we don't tend and choose to look at life in a particular way. Life is very simple when you choose to see it in a very simple way. That's the first thing I've talked about when it comes to making sure that our pain bodies do listen. Let's accept what did happen. It's very hard. You might need counseling. You might need a lot of different things. You might need time and years, but think about it at the back of your mind. Accept and move on. Moving on might be a little bit hard. It might need a lot of work in the middle, but when you do it, I promise you, as a matter of fact, you are going to realize that life is very, 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 very absolutely simple. The second thing I would love to talk about to make sure that our pain bodies do listen, it is to join or to jump onto this journey of finding truly who we are. Because in finding truly who we are, I believe that we have at least 50% of the power to claim back our lives and get back our lives onto track. When you ask me that question, who I am, I'm going to say that I'm God's child. That's the first thing I'm going to say. I'm going to say, as Pierre de Chardin, one of the bravest spiritual teachers of our century, said that we are spiritual beings with a human experience. I'm going to say that I'm that which is connected to God, to that which is infinite. Meaning that I'm not my body and I'm not my mind. Whatever my body is telling me, whatever my mind is telling me, I'm not that. I'm that which is loved by God. I'm that which is more than what the mere eyes do meet, when it comes to the body. I'm that which is capable. I'm that which is, very, very absolutely, connected to the infinite, connected to God. That is the enlightenment the point I'm trying to cut across, That's the second thing I would love to say to you. Make sure that you find out truly who you are. Finding out truly who you are, not as a mere, when they ask you, who are you? I'm tanyanishailoc, I'm a nurse. No. What is the behind that? Finding out truly who you are. It's going to help you a lot so that you can overcome this thing called pain body, and also, be able to make your pain body listen a little bit more. The third thing is that I would love to tell to you, it is always living in the present moment. I'm a person who right now is also on this journey of doing my best so that I live in the present moment. When you are starting out, it's not very easy. That's one thing I'm going to tell you. But because we are trained, it is like the system setting of our community or our society to always either live in the past or live in the future. Living in the past is going to just bring a lot of memories, especially memories that are going to be detrimental, to awaken your pain body and those worst experiences. And living also in the future may trigger anxiety and being anxious or panic. But there is a way how you can do both of them without being able to trigger your pain body. But nevertheless, in the whole of this, the point I'm trying to, cut across, it is living in the present moment. The present moment is all we have because it has the power, to keep us connected to the infinity, which is God. You might call Allah, another person might call Jesus, another person might call God, but it helps us a lot to stay attuned to truly who we are. You cannot live within your instinctive power when you're living in the past or when you are living in the future. You need the present moment, and living in the present moment and meaning fully accepting what it is. I'm living in this house right now. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm 24 right now. I'm living in this house. I have the subscribers I have. I'm communicating with the microphone I have, with the camera I have. I'm so thankful for that. I'm so grateful for that. I'm accepting it, not taking it in very bad spirit, but I'm accepting it. This is the present moment I'm in. I'm not going to live in the future and say, I'll do this when I have a good camera, or maybe I would have done that, but I was stolen, or I would have done that, but maybe my parents are not rich because maybe they never did that and that. Doing only that, it's going to degrade you and take away a lot of your energy. This brings me to the end of this podcast episode. I think I've talked way more than I thought I'm going to be communicating, but I'm so glad and happy that I've been able to talk about this topic. It's one thing that is so dear to my heart, and being a person who has lived a lot of different experiences that were, you would describe as, breaking. Not even groundbreaking would be a very good word to use. I think the best word to use was, I think, some of the worst moments by then, as a person who has lived some of the worst moments by then, and, emerged out how I've emerged out with the success, with the knowledge, with the integrity and the knowledge, and with that particular level of understanding. I wanted to share this with you guys because I know a lot of you guys out there, you are looking for solutions, you are looking for different options, you don't know where to start. I was like that. Maybe the other thing I would love to advise you, such as an advice, is jump onto this journey of self-development. It's very, very absolutely important. Grow new habits. It will help you in the long run. Start reading, listen to different important things like podcast episodes. Search truly who you are. Search for different options that can help you thrive and grow and be more of who you are. And I just wish you all the best. Yep. So, as I end today's podcast episode, I would love to recommend you about 2 books. Please go, you can search for them, read them. They are very, very amazing books. They might help you overcome this particular journey of overcoming the pain body and making sure that your pain body does listen to you, not you again listening to it. Does that make sense? I was trying to say that so that you can make sure that your pain body listens to you and not the opposite. The first book is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Murphy. The second book, it is The New Earth by Eckhart. The other books, a lot of these books actually, I think I don't have the proper headings because most of them are audiobooks. I have started listening to them on YouTube, but podcast episodes, especially for Oprah Winfrey, they are also very, very amazing. Oprah has a lot of segments on her podcast, channel, which is called, I think, Super Soul. A lot of different episodes, which she goes deep, with different spiritual teachers, with different influential people talking about, how they overcame different things that might be also very influential to you. But nevertheless, those are some of the books I would recommend. There are also other books, a lot of them. But for now, you can start with those and also look for information. Because information is power. Information is power. As B.B. King always says that whatever you read and understand, no one can take that away from you. They might take away your house, they might take away your room, your phone, but what you read and kept in your mind, no one will take that away from you, and it will help you to grow into a good and better human being day after day. I love, Maya Angelou, one of the greatest teachers that has ever lived, and poets. She says that when you have, give. When you know something, teach and educate. And I hope I've been of value today to you guys through the little I can be able to share with you on this channel. Thank you very much for listening to today's podcast episode. I appreciate you a lot. I'm tanyanishailoc, and don't forget to subscribe, to like, to comment. Let me know in the comment section below other podcast episodes you would love to, to have little information about. Yeah, tanyanishailoc switching out. Bye for now.